Hi, everyone. I'm Donato Cabrera, the music director of the California Symphony, and welcome to our season announcement of the 2020-2021 season that will begin in September, late September. This is such an exciting season for us for many, many reasons. Obviously, one of the most obvious ones is that this year we're all celebrating in our own way the 250th anniversary of Beethoven's birth, and we are, like everyone else, very excited about sharing that. But being the California Symphony, we also pride ourselves in offering a diverse season and a very engaged season. And this coming season, the 2021 season, is just like all the previous ones, but even more so. We will be performing for you. 40% of our composers are female or composers of color or living composers, which is something we're very proud of. Let's dive right in. This is for this first concert. We have, of course, we wanted to celebrate the 250th anniversary of Beethoven, but I wanted to find a way that told the story of how Beethoven became Beethoven. And our first concert on September 26th and September 27th is called The Emperor, for many reasons, and you'll soon see why. But how did Beethoven become one of the emperors of classical music? Well, he had teachers, and this whole concert showcases how Beethoven became that person. We begin with an overture, also called a Sinfonia, by Mariana Martinez. Now, that name has been lost to history, but Mariana Martinez was an incredibly important composer, and she was part of a very well-connected family in Vienna. In her palace, her family's palace, lived a young, struggling composer by the name of Joseph Haydn. And Joseph Haydn eventually became Beethoven's teacher. Mariana taught Haydn, young Haydn. Haydn taught Beethoven. And those are the three composers we're showcasing on our first concert. So we begin with Mariana Martinez's overture in C major, followed by Haydn's Symphony number 82, The Bear. And on the second half, I'd like to join us right now our soloist for the Beethoven Piano Concerto number 5, The Emperor, Adam Golka. Hi, Adam. Welcome. Are you there? I think so. He's about to show up. Hi, Adam. Are you there?
Hi, Donato. It's so great to be here.
Hey, listen. We were just talking before we went live about what we're all doing with each other, and you were just about to mention how you're staying busy in this situation we all find ourselves.
Yeah.
I've been writing a blog and trying to stay engaged. And what about you?
Thank you for asking. Yeah, I've been very much trying to focus on the positive, and one of the gifts I have as a pianist is that I have piles and piles of music and a beautiful instrument to make music on. And honestly, that makes me feel like I haven't had a chance to be bored for a second. And Beethoven has been the primary benefactor or victim or whatnot of my daily endeavors. I just feel very lucky to be playing his music, which is so sublime.
So you join us on the end of September 26th and 27th with the Emperor Concerto. Obviously one of the most well-known pieces, not just one of the most well-known piano concertos, but one of the most well-known pieces of Beethoven's. You've performed this piece before?
Many times.
And if there's one thing you would say for the audience to think about when they're perhaps listening to you play, or when they're going to see the concert, what would that be?
Well, one of the things that I find challenging and so stimulating about the Emperor is that there's a sense of space in the piece that requires a royal perspective. I mean, it's not Beethoven's name, the Emperor. But if you think of just the three iconic chords that the orchestra gives before the pianist has cadenzas, it's basically 2 minutes of music before the first cadence really happens. And that sets up this sense that, Beethoven is saying, I'm not going to be in a rush, and neither are you. And the melodies are so sprawling at times, and the ideas so wide-ranging, that I feel sometimes like I have to really be sitting on the top of a mountain to be playing it. Even though there are so many details to honor, one has to have that bird's eye view and that regal sense. And I know that with you, that is going to be easier than ever. So I can't wait.
Thanks. I'm looking forward to seeing you and working with you again. I think the last time we worked together was with the Grieg Piano Concerto,
right.
which was such a great experience. This concert's all about the origins of Beethoven with a Haydn symphony, one of the great Haydn symphonies on the first half, and then a piece that's hardly ever done, Mariana Martinez, who is one of the benefactors and teachers of a young Haydn, and it is sort of this progress of how Beethoven became Beethoven. Have you ever explored any of the piano sonatas of Haydn or any of Beethoven's sort of predecessors in your discovery and performance practice of Beethoven?
That's an interesting question. Actually, I was not familiar with Maria Martinez, so I thank you for mentioning.
I was discovering her as well when I was when I was doing this programming.
You can bet that I'll be sitting in the audience and listening to the rehearsals. That's sometimes the sad part of playing the concerto on the second half, is I don't get to enjoy. I always love sitting in the audience as soon as I'm done playing. Anyway, but yes, absolutely. In fact, I'm actually in the process of producing my friend's recordings of the complete Haydn sonatas, as he's producing my complete Beethoven sonatas. So Haydn has been very much on the mind. And actually, as we speak, I'm working on the Opus 2 piano sonatas as I prepare the cycle of the 32, which I am scheduled to play next season. And the first 3 Opus 2 sonatas are dedicated to his teacher, to Joseph Haydn. So Haydn's very much on the mind, and I've been having a great time getting to know so many Haydns that I didn't know because of the producing process. So yeah, I also look forward to hearing all these great musicians play Haydn.
Well, Adam, thank you so much for joining us. As always, we could talk for another hour, but I have to move on to the next concert. So I can't wait to see you in September, and let's stay in touch before then, okay?
Thank you so much. Loved everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye. I can't wait to see Adam again and to hear him play the Emperor Concerto. He has such the perfect personality and concept behind his music making. The next concert in early November 7th and 8th, is a concert. Well, it's called Firebirds of a Feather, which in preparations and programming of this concert, it turned out that the pieces that I wanted to perform together ended up having a similar title, something to do with birds. And however, the concerto that we're going to perform may not have that in the title, but it's something that's dear to all of us at the California Symphony, because Mason Bates was one of our young American composers in residence, and our soloist for this great concerto is the person for whom it was written, Joshua Roman, who is returning to us again from having been a soloist for one of our symphony surround concerts that have been so fun to do. So let's welcome Joshua. Hi, Joshua.
Hi, Donato. How are you?
I'm great. Where are you coming from these days?
I'm actually in California.
Okay.
I was artist in residence with the Squire Foundation in Santa Barbara, which is where I am right now. And it's just kind of been extended. I left New York last year in June and of been floating. And so I think I'm moving to California.
There are worse places to be sequestered than Santa Barbara.
Oh my gosh, I feel pretty spoiled. I definitely don't take it for granted that I get to be at this residency during this time.
So in November, when you join us November 7th and 8th, you will be performing a piece that will be the first time for me, not the first time of performing a piece by Mason, of course, but and it's certainly not a first time for you, and that's his cello concerto. Can you tell us just a little bit about how this piece came into existence and your association with Mason and the cello concerto?
Yes. So Mason and I met quite a while ago in Seattle, and we had a brief encounter there. He was there for a new music festival that I was subbing in for a
Hmm.
cellist who'd gotten ill. And that was, we kind of met, but then we really got thrown together through the YouTube Symphony at Carnegie Hall, its first iteration in 2011. And Mason likes to call it our shotgun wedding. We were asked to improvise together and not given time to get to know each other musically. So we did that at Le Poisson Rouge. It was pretty fun, but there is a living document online of it that I think both of us would love to remake at some point. And we wanted to do other stuff together more intentionally. So I commissioned a solo piece from him for on my series in Seattle. And from the very beginning,
Hmm.
his mind, his orchestrational abilities, the colors that he comes up with, I really wanted to talk about a concerto, and so we did. And then the Seattle Symphony, the Columbus Symphony, and the Los Angeles Chamber Orchestra banded together to commission that work. And I think I've played it with 16 orchestras now around the world.
You know,
Um,
and could I just say that in itself is a gift for a new piece, because
yeah,
often, as you know, you commission something, it's performed once, and then it's stuck on the shelf.
it's incredible. The response has been ubiquitously positive. It's a beautiful piece. It's really, we worked together very consciously during the process of composing the piece to find things that felt cellistic and spontaneous at the same time. So there are things that pop up in the piece that are gestures or sounds that cellists kind of make idly when they're just sitting around,
Hmm.
but they're turned into beautiful sort of nuggets that get developed by Mason. And that gives the piece a very special feel as a cellist. But he also has done that by kind of injecting my personality into the piece. So it's an emblem of our friendship, of our relationship. There's so much warmth and beauty in the piece. The first movement does soar the melody, so you
Hmm.
could say that it's soaring like a bird, and never it doesn't really tie in, but
Oh my gosh, that's gonna
maybe
happen. Thank
it's
you.
it,
You
it's it really does. It's such a beautiful spun out melody that really soars. But at the heart of it, this piece is warmth and dance, and the second movement has got to be the sexiest thing written for the cello in the last 20 years. So
that's something to hear and see. Thank you, Joshua. Well, I'll keep you on here. I just get your impression as I quickly go through the rest of the repertoire on
yeah,
this concert. We begin with a piece by Melody Oetvers. Have you done any pieces of hers yet?
no,
She is this phenomenal composer. I saw this piece at the Cabrera Festival. I went to a couple of rehearsals last summer, and they were programming this piece, and I was at the rehearsals, and it was one of those moments, and I'm sure you've had many, where you hear a piece for the first time and it immediately takes you into this world you've never been in before.
yeah,
And that's what happened when I watched this rehearsal with Sakara Bird. So I just couldn't wait to find an excuse to programming it.
awesome.
And then on the second half, we're doing the Respighi, the Birds, Gliucelli, and then finishing with Firebird Suite. Now, as a former orchestral cellist, playing a piece by Respighi, the Birds, or the Firebird Suite, just quickly going back into your brain, your memories of performing in an orchestra. What is it like playing these great pieces?
I actually snuck into the back of a section sometime last season, I think it
Uh-huh.
was, for the Firebird. And it's amazing. I mean, there are pieces that stand out in your mind that have been made larger than life, not just by being grand orchestral statements, but also by the way that they've showed up in mainstream culture. And
Yeah.
so they have this larger than life appeal. And it's so amazing to me to be able to make a sound that connects with so many emotions inside that are shared by other people. And so playing these pieces, and listening to them now, for me, is such a joy and such a moment of connection. And I really look forward to that, especially in times like this when we're so isolated, because it really does remind us that the deeper you go, the more we're the same. So
So true, Joshua. We can't wait to see you in November, and and looking forward to playing the Bates with you and maybe having you sneak in.
Yeah. We'll see how much is taken out of me for the Bates. I can't remember what I played before I did that. It's kind of an easy piece.
All right, Joshua, take care.
Stay healthy.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
The beginning of 2021, we return after the holidays, January 30th and 31st, actually it's at the end of the month, with another collection of music that needs to be played more often. We're all familiar with Vaughan Williams, but in the context of just a few pieces that are deservedly played a lot. Fantasia on a theme of Thomas Tallis and variations on Greensleeves that we hear practically every holiday concert, and deservedly so. But Vaughan Williams wrote 9 symphonies, and maybe at one point in the not too distant past, we would be familiar with his second symphony, his London Symphony. But there are so many hidden treasures in every one of his symphonies, and my personal favorite, at least at this time, and it has been for quite a while, I can safely say, is his 5th symphony, which we'll be performing on the second half. On the first half, we begin with a piece that Robert Schumann, the great composer, originally intended to be a symphony. He wrote the first 3 movements, he wrote the first movement, the overture, a scherzo movement, and a finale, but he didn't have something that he was comfortable with for the slow movement. And so he decided to just publish the 3 movements as they were. And it's a piece about 20 minutes long, but because it's a piece that's too long in modern day feelings for an overture and too short for a symphony, it's not performed. And that's just not a good enough reason. So this piece, Schumann's overture, first movement, scherzo, and finale, begins the concert. And to end the first half, we are playing a wonderful piece that was recently discovered of the mid-century African-American composer Florence Price. And joining us, and this is sort of part of a new exchange that the California Symphony and the Las Vegas Philharmonic are initiating, we are welcoming the concertmaster of Las Vegas Philharmonic to perform this really cool piece, Deanne Letourneau. So I'd love to welcome Deanne. Hi, Deanne.
Hi, how are you doing?
Hanging in there, I think. We're hanging in there like I'm hanging in there like the rest of us, trying to anyway. How about you?
Same. Hanging in there, doing some practicing and lots of students. So it's been great. It's an interesting experiment, I think.
Have you figured out a system that works for you in terms of being online with your students? Because I know so many of us had to really make it work.
Yeah, I'm constantly experimenting. I'm finding I actually particularly like FaceTime better than Zoom because I can actually play with the student, where Zoom to just be, it's more for a vocal exchange. Like I'm talking, now you're talking, and so I can't play with them. So right. I also find FaceTime is a little less glitchy. Okay. I'm still looking for the perfect platform. Haven't found it, but
I don't know if it exists, but at least you found something that works for now, right?
Exactly.
So I've been wanting to do this for years. I've been music director of the California Symphony for 7 years and Las Vegas Philharmonic 6 years now. Time flies, right? And 6. I know. And, in a way, we've often shared things already. We share, I'll do a symphony with the Las Vegas Philharmonic or concerto, then the following year I'll do it with the California Symphony and vice versa. So we've been sharing repertoire and soloists. We'll have a solo like Maria Reduto, for example. And now this partnership is sort of becoming, I don't know, celebrated or just codified. With having you come up and playing the Florence Price Concerto with the California Symphony and playing the Florence Price Concerto in Las Vegas on the same season. And then Jennifer Cho will be playing the Jennifer Higdon Concerto in, vice versa, same thing. So, just first of all, you're probably still, discovering Florence Price like the rest of us. But what is it like going? Just this basic question of like, what is it like playing as a concertmaster for an orchestra, and then having to either play a concerto with your hometown orchestra, like we've done many times, or going to another orchestra and playing a concerto? What's that like?
Oh, it's so much fun. Especially when you're playing with your own players, that's your home team. That's really fun to do. And not much different than what we do as concertmasters, because we were always kind of in the hot seat as far as playing all the solo passages. What I'm really excited about with this is the exchange between California Symphony. I'm really excited to meet Jennifer officially for the first time. And the two orchestras have been, like you said, we've been sharing so many things for so many seasons that it's exciting to see this new way of being together blossom. I think especially in the times that we're in right now, it's brilliant, and I'm hoping more and more orchestras will jump on the bandwagon and do the same thing.
And then finally, before we move on, because these interviews, we could go on forever, but which we will do, which we tend to do anyway, after rehearsals and going out for drinks. But learning a new concerto, what is that like for you? Because, it's one thing to bring back, a Mendelssohn concerto or the Brahms concerto, which is difficult. I'm not saying it's not, but you've lived with those pieces. But what is it like learning a new piece for you?
Oh, learning a new piece is so exciting. Ever since my college days at Cincinnati Conservatory, I used to be part of something called the Contemporary Arts Ensemble, because I love premiering new works, taking old works that don't have that kind of, like in this case, like with Florence Price's concerto that I've started studying. And for me, it's like getting to know a new friend. And especially at this point in my career, it's really fun to play something new, because all the war horses, I could go through all the concertos we played. Oh, I studied it with so-and-so, and I played it with this orchestra. And this is literally, truly brand new. This is absolutely brand new. And discovering who Florence Price was. I've been listening to a lot of recordings that I can find of hers. There's not many, but finding them are like treasures, and finding, like, particularly in this particular concerto, it reminds me a lot of American in Paris, almost, or like that old RKO orchestra, kind of almost Korngold, sort of, and so it's great. And so learning new music is, I'm excited to bring it to the audiences in California and in Las Vegas. Excited to share this journey, my learning journey, with all of my colleagues, and with you working on something. It's very refreshing. So it's especially during this time now, to have this time to actually work, it works out perfect.
Well, we're all in the same boat. We're all excited. I'm looking forward to the time when we can do this thing that we do, which is make music for others again, and to bring something that has recently been discovered to our audience is a real gift for us. So can't wait to see you again in person, Leanne. I hope.
Me too.
Stay safe, stay healthy.
Okay.
Bye.
Stay safe.
Bye. Our next concert, which happens March 27th and 28th, is something, and I'd like to bring in someone to talk a little bit about this in a second. But this concert for me is really fun, because typically when you reduce an orchestra to perform other music that we don't normally do, we usually reduce it to strings. When we do the Four Seasons or the Tchaikovsky Serenade. This time, however, I decided to reverse that and focus on those other folks in the back that are so, there's so much music that's been written for the winds and brass that are so special and people know so well. In order to talk a little bit about this, I know he wasn't planning on it, but he has to leave early. I'd like to introduce our young American composer in residence that is beginning in the fall, Viet Quang. Viet, are you there?
Hello. Hi, how are you?
I'm bringing you in to talk a little bit about something off on the fly, and and it's nothing like give me a Schenkerian analysis or something. This is that the composer, but I'm bringing you in to talk a little bit about the concert that is before yours, because it's all music of winds. I'm doing the Dvorak Wind Serenade, the Stravinsky Concerto for piano and wind instruments, and then on the second half, I'm doing the Grand Partita, the serenade, the great famous Mozart serenade for winds. And we were going to talk about this a little bit in a minute, but your background is fascinating, because you grew up like I did, playing in band. And what was your instrument?
Clarinet.
Clarinet and percussion. And you have written many pieces for band, for wind ensembles. And this concert I'm really excited, because as a former horn player who had played in bands, I love, of course, all the string repertoire, but orchestras so rarely program all of this music, which is also equally wonderful, by Dvorak, Stravinsky, and Mozart, famous composers, but that wrote for wind instruments. So what is it like for you, first of all, as a former wind player, percussion player as well, writing for that ensemble, and maybe and also looking back to those great composers that also wrote for wind ensembles?
Yeah, writing for band is really important to me, just because band is where I found my place as a kid, and it's where I felt like I most belonged in high school, is in that band room. And so writing music for band, it feels like I am giving back to the community that is the reason that I'm a professional musician today. And there's so much great music written for winds, and part of my mission as a composer is to kind of to add to that, but also to bring communities like the band world together with the orchestral world, together with the chamber music world, and to kind of encourage the cross-pollination of all of those different facets of the musical community.
We're on the same page, Viet, because that's exactly how I've always felt. I feel like, they're almost like two different universes. You have the university band world and the high school band world. They sort of work together. But it's almost, and even if you go to a campus where, like a school of music, you have the band director and the band program, and then you have over here, you have the orchestra program, and they almost, I'm not saying this always happens, but there's this definite divide can be a divide between the two, especially like in terms of repertoire and the way they approach new music. And it's just fascinating to me that that they could work together and can work together in such a healthy and profound way. And it's wonderful that you have that in your mindset as you compose.
Oh yeah. And I mean, I also have to say, like, being a clarinetist back in the day and a percussion, it's like helped my composing tremendously. When I do write for wind instruments or percussion, it's so great to be able to like think about like what it actually would feel like to play something when I'm writing for winds. So I owe a lot to the band, to band world.
We all do. And being a former clarinet player, you'll appreciate the Grand Partita. As you know, there are those instruments that the basset clarinet, yes, or basset horn, as some people call them. Of course, they're two different instruments. I know that now. I've been schooled. We're bringing in, I know you have to go, but I want to talk to now about the May 15th and 16th concert with your first piece that you'll be writing for us, which is an overture-like piece. Of course, you're probably still in the midst of planning what it will be. But in general, talking about a composer in residency, ours is a 3-year program, 3-year residency, which includes you coming in the beginning of the season to do a half an hour session with the orchestra to experiment with sounds and that half an hour is recorded for you to use throughout the year. What is it like having a residency like this, and how do you feel it will further your development as a composer?
Oh, it's just so invaluable. I mean, the thought of getting together an orchestra yourself to test out material is just, it's incomprehensible for like a composer just to be able to do that. And I think the way that you grow as a composer in an orchestral setting is to write a lot of orchestral music and to hear it played. And with each piece, you find what worked well, what didn't work well. And sometimes those things are really surprising. What you think is going to work sometimes doesn't work at all. And sometimes what you think is like totally not going to work is really successful. So being able to actually like try things out before a premiere that's in a public setting is like amazing, because you can actually take risks and try things out and not have to worry about the performance not going well in front of hundreds, thousands of people. And also to be able to write something and then hear it and then have months to refine it is just, it's like a dream come true. I'm still kind of in disbelief that I get to do this for 3 years. It's it's amazing.
I know. Well, we're all at the California Symphony so excited to get to know you, of course, and in the few interactions we've all had, we're so excited that you're now part of our family. And over the years, for me, this is one of the most rewarding things that in my career is to just become a friend of a new composer, and to if I can be of help and encouragement. If nothing else, it's just to be there as your one of your biggest cheerleaders is a real honor for me. So I know you have to head off, but thank you so much, Viet, and thanks for stepping in there for the previous.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so excited, and it's such an honor. I can't wait.
Thanks, Viet. We'll talk soon.
Yes, so be well.
You too. Be safe. Bye.
Bye.
Let's see. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now,
Okay, fine. Then it's fine. Okay, good. Hi, Jenny.
Hi.
So I was just talking about how I had heard Jennifer Higdon's opera last summer at the Music Academy of the West. Her opera called Cold Mountain, based on the novel, and of course the novel was eventually made into a fantastic movie. And that was where I got to meet Jennifer Higdon for the first time, was just last summer. And you and I had already talked about, gosh, what piece shall we do, again, for our concerto that we do every other season. And I'm not quite sure how I discovered it. I guess I was just sort of digging around and found Hilary Hahn's recording of the Higdon concerto, and I think I sent it on to you, or was it the other way around? Did you send it to me? And now I can't remember.
Yeah, I think we were both just brainstorming and trying to come up with different options. And
don't ever let me take credit for something I didn't do.
It very well could have been you. I think probably it was.
But what I loved about her concerto was that, like the great concertos I love, it's written so well for the orchestra. So it's not just violin, beautiful, lovely violin sounds, and then in the background the orchestra is sort of just
not at all.
It's a very symphonic work in that two opposing, maybe not opposing, but sometimes opposing forces working to create this real great piece. What are your impressions of this piece so far and your discovery of it?
It's been amazing to have, just like Deanne was saying, to have the time and spend the time to really get to know this piece. And I have had to create kind of new etudes, honestly, and new forms of scales to just handle the technical magnitude of it. So that's actually been really fun and really creative. She uses a lot of 11ths and 7ths in her writing, and so I had to come up.
You're playing notes that are greater than an octave. So usually, what is expected of a violinist is usually no more than an octaves. Yes, give or take.
Yeah, I mean, typically you have octaves. You also have tenths and things, but she uses a lot of 7ths, and I think I said 11th. I meant 9th, 7th, and 9th. Because of the significance of those numbers in these pieces. And so those it's not part of our regular warm-up routine. We do thirds, we do sixths, we do octaves,
Right.
but 7ths and 9ths aren't like, so I have had to make these scales up where I'm practicing these 7th scales just to kind of get it into my comfort zone for technique-wise.
It sort of reminds me of that. There's a really, not funny, but like revealing video or on YouTube of Heifetz coaching one of his students in sort of like a video filmed lesson. And he's sort of sitting there with this dour look. He's like, okay, G flat major in 10ths, G flat, E flat minor in 9ths, and like the student diligently quickly plays it.
Oh yeah, I'm doing my own version of that. So it's like, okay, well, D flat harmonic minor, starting on, the 4th note on the G string, and then do that.
So I'm so excited, and I, as part of this, as I mentioned with Deanne, it's this sort of codified this partnership that we're doing this year with the Las Vegas Philharmonic, in that you'll be playing the Higdon with the California Symphony, and then you'll also be playing with the Las Vegas Philharmonic, as Deanne is doing with the Florence Price, with 2 concertos that aren't that well known, but should be more well known. We're a part of that process of getting these concertos out into the public. What does this mean for you? Just for the simple fact you get to play it more than once. Often if you do a concerto, you'll play this. With the California Symphony, we do 1 or 2 performances of it, and then that's it. But now you get to do this more than once. What's that like? What's that going to be like for you, do you think?
Oh, it's huge. It makes such a difference, I think, in your development, because of course you there's a process where you work up to an opening night of a concerto, and that's a whole invaluable experience in itself. But what you learn after the premiere, or the first time that you play something,
right.
And then to be able to think that over, and then do it again, and then again, that's where I think you grow in leaps and bounds as a performer, really, to kind of like Viet was saying, you get to try things out almost in a way, and then you really can think back and see, okay, well, this really worked in performance, or hey, this did not work so well in performance.
On the second half, and there's to just talk about just a piece in general, because you probably have played Shostakovich's 5th Symphony before. Playing a piece just as an orchestral player, and for those of you who don't know, you're also a member of the San Francisco Opera Orchestra, and you get to play some of the most amazing, something's fallen.
There we go. I just took a tumble, but I'm okay.
You're back. But playing repertoire like this, great pieces for you. You get to do The Ring. You get to do the great operas of Verdi, and the Shostakovich Symphony No. 5 and his other symphonies are in that category of wonderful experiences, right? Talk a little bit about just playing a piece like that and what it means.
Well, the Shostakovich is, for me, something that I haven't done as much of recently, but I played a lot when I was a little bit younger. And so it has so much memory and pull for me of a slightly different era in my life, I guess, and kind of the people that I was around and had the pleasure of working with when I played. And
Mhm.
so I think it brings on a whole other level of meaning when you have that kind of relationship with the work. So I'm so, well, that's one of the things I love so much about being able to play with the California Symphony, because as you mentioned, my other job is at the opera and we get to play fantastic repertoire over there. But, I miss out on composers like Brahms and there's not a whole lot of Beethoven and things like
Mahler.
that. Yeah, Mahler, so I get to do both.
Yeah.
And so I just feel so lucky, and I feel like both can feed into each other. I haven't had the honor yet of playing the Shostakovich opera, but I
Uh-huh.
think it's the kind of thing when you play a composer, you perform their symphonies, you have a certain understanding of them, like Mozart, for
Yeah.
example. I played Mozart growing up, and of course all through school, and as starting out as a musician professionally, played a lot of Mozart, and I felt like I understood him and had a relationship with him in a certain way. And then I started playing Mozart operas, and so many wonderful Mozart operas. And then your understanding of his music and your relationship with the composer really grows,
Isn't
because
it amazing, especially with Mozart, because we
especially
all learn Mozart first, maybe growing up and learning piano or violin, and we play a lot of his music. But if we're lucky enough to get involved with his operas, that's where I think the key to what Mozart is all about is there.
absolutely, so much of what he does is just showcased so well in his operas. And
Mhm.
so now, having had that experience of playing many operas and then coming back to his symphonies has been such a delightful experience, because I feel like you can create more life, more dialogue within these phrases, just because you've seen what he does with it in a different context.
Well, we're so excited about this final concert, and we're the whole season. I know that um, I've gotten so many messages from our colleagues about this upcoming season, um, and you and I have been a part of this trajectory of the California Symphony over the years, where we began playing. When we both sort of started, in a way, we were doing something else, and now it's evolved into something that I think is really special and unique in the Bay Area. And I want to thank you, of course, and the rest of our colleagues on stage for helping make that happen. And this coming season is just a further expression of the excitement we all share when we're making music for our great audience in Walnut Creek. So looking forward to it, Jenny. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We are very excited about this upcoming season. I want to thank, of course, our season sponsors, Diablo Regional Arts Association, DRAA, the Lesher Foundation, of course, and the Hewlett Foundation. And stay safe, everyone. Stay healthy. And we'll see you as soon as we can. Take care.